Cricbuzz Chatter, day one of this test match at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Dinesh Karthik is alongside me. And the reason I'm bringing DK in right away before setting up everything is, DK, are you in Chennai, first of all? You're in
I am
Chennai,
not
right?
as privileged as you to be in windy Sydney today, Harsha.
No. I was told by the networks that they wanted you, but that they had to choose between you and the rest of the entire commentary team for fees.
Shots fired. I see straight away you're behaving like
The
aggressive
reason
Bumrah.
I asked reason I asked if you're in Chennai was this pitch looked
Yeah,
like it had come straight out of a thali in a Chennai restaurant with the spicy sambar and rasam.
yeah.
Way
Oh,
too spicy. I can't remember seeing a Sydney cricket ground because all the numbers were saying that this is the best batting surface in Australia. It is no longer a turning track. That myth, that thing was buried long ago, and it played completely differently. Rishabh Pant, 40 top scorer, Jadeja and extras joined second highest on 26. And the runs that Bumrah along with Prasidh Krishna scored at the end, who knows, might still be valuable. India 185 and in a slightly short fuse 3 overs, Australia 9 for 1. And Usman Khwaja at the moment is getting Bumrah nightmares. Right. So, first of all, what did you make of India's batting? Because it was an action packed day. And yet, if you look down the card, you might say, did anything change? Openers went early. India's average first innings is 22 per wicket. Kohli got out after 69 balls, but he got out the same way again. Shubman Gill again looked fairly promising and got out. So you might say what changed, or you could say, look, they hung in on a fiery deck, especially with Rishabh Pant and Jadeja. So what do you think?
overall, the first thing, Harsha, I'm amazed that they chose to bat. Overcast,
Mm,
green pitch.
mm,
This
mm,
is an issue a lot of teams have. When you have a certain amount of stats, history as to what has happened in this ground, everything prompts to the fact that you need to be batting, or rather batting first. But the conditions, overhead, overcast, is telling you better to bowl first. We have three fast bowlers and Nitish Reddy and a couple of spinners. We also have the chance, if we want in the third innings to come back. So the history has obviously overruled the decision, I would like to think, towards India batting first. Because the way the pitch was behaving, and like you said, it was a very, very spicy seeming pitch, and that is always hard to play on. There are three quality bowlers. Add to the fact that there's a bowler who uses that pitch brilliantly. It was going to be hard work. But the one thing that India did do is try and fight. We have been hearing this so much on social media, apply, take time, all of that. They all did that. But alas, the result ended up being the same, isn't it? 185 all out. Luckily, Bumrah came to score 22 runs, and that partnership he stitched with Prasidh and Siraj took India from what could have been even worse to a 185 score, which looks, well, as of now, it looks okay because one wicket is fallen. We'll only know tomorrow whether it's good enough.
Now, you mentioned social media. Social media over the last 3 days has been as out of form as the sneakometer.
True.
The sneakometer is all over social media. Everybody on social media seems to have had a secret camera and microphone inside the Indian dressing room because everyone seems to know what's happening there. But that is for later on in the program. Let's talk about the Indian batting. Yes, it's a spicy deck. KL Rahul, Yashasvi, Jaiswal. I thought they had good plans against all of them. I was fascinated by Virat Kohli because I thought after that first ball, and he was a blade of grass away from being out on the first ball, a blade of grass away, literally. After that, I thought he was leaving well.
Yep.
And then again, exactly the same way. I don't know if turning down a single played on his mind, but he's a great cricketer. These things shouldn't matter.
True. First thing I want to start with, what was the ball that I thought that was unplayable amongst the 10 wickets that fell today? Definitely Yashasvi Jaiswal. That was probably the toughest ball. Not
Yes,
much you can do with it. KL
could
Rahul,
not agree
obviously,
more.
because of his super side on technique, when the ball comes back in that late, you tend to just play the ball at that angle. Understandable. Virat Kohli. The one thing that he has done, Harsha, is from a technical point of view, he's brought his elbow a lot more straighter. Before it
Is more
used to be
side on, you think?
slightly, Yes, he has gotten slightly more side on. That's why he was leaving so many balls just around the fourth and fifth stump today with regular ease till he played at one that he shouldn't have again. If he had the same discipline, that's the tough part about batting. All you need is one error. If you had gotten out that first ball, it would have been very different. We would have been sympathetic. And also, it's a first ball. It's very hard to play a ball like that first up. And the decision and the debate will come to that, as you said. But after that, it was an innings filled with discipline where he left, fought his demons in the mind, did everything possible. Again, the ball that he got out was one we knows that he could have left on height and line.
There were two contests going on over there. One was Kohli versus the Australian bowlers, and one was Kohli versus Kohli.
Correct.
And I thought for the first 60 odd balls, like after that first ball, for about 60, 65 balls, the Kohli on the field won over the Kohli that we've been seeing in this series. But sometimes it just happens. I mean, you just get a nick, all catches get taken, and well, there it was. But what it led to was a very interesting passage of play, and I'm going to call on your knowledge of the people involved in their DK, because till recently you've been there, you've known them very well. I saw Rishabh Pant batting today, and I thought the naughtiest boy in class was made the class monitor. And so suddenly Rishabh Pant is batting, hanging in there. Today, if Rishabh Pant goes into the change room and just drops his clothes, you'll find all those marks all over him. So you can look at Rishabh Pant's innings two ways. One is he hung in there, and got 40. The other is to say, was this Rishabh Pant at all? And is this how he's going to be from now on? Would a free stroking Rishabh Pant have actually been better in those circumstances?
It's a
I
hard
accept
one.
the fact, first of all, that you cannot have the upside of Rishabh Pant's swashbuckling game, but don't want to see the downside of his.
True. And that's the major thing. I think he's been a very free stroking, free spirited player. But this always happens in international cricket when you come across a situation where you get out a couple of times, which the world is not okay with, and then you try and buckle down, which he tried to do today. Eventually, one bad shot led to his dismissal. It wasn't there to be pulled, ended up pulling it, got out. But the application was there. And I thought even in the previous test match in Melbourne, he really did apply in that whole session where he batted through. But it wasn't meant to be. When he came back and just, again, one false shot, things changed. But this is the problem that he must be battling in his mind. You need a lot of freedom, Harsha, to be playing the way he does. When you're new, you see Sam Constas, to the point I would say he's slogging now. He just doesn't back himself to stay in the crease and play Bumrah. So he's wildly stepping out. If it is full, he's getting bat on it. Otherwise, he's just slogging. So you can do that when you're young, but if you played 30, 40 test matches like Rishabh Pant and you do that and you get out, the cricketing world is going to come hard at you. And that's exactly what has happened with Rishabh Pant. What looked like bravado, brilliance, is now looked at as silly, to the point where people are not accepting that style of play. But for me, Rishabh Pant should always be that free-spirited player, because that gets the best out of it, where he puts pressure on the bowler, not the other way around. And he's been good doing that. Because he's gotten out a few times, he shouldn't change his game plan. I back him to do that. In doing that, India has gotten into winning positions and even won test matches. I would like him to do that. If he gets out, he should know he's done it because he wanted to at that point of time, or because the situation warranted it. Not because the world had told him, no, don't just go out there and fight it out and play it in a certain way. That is what I would love for Rishabh Pant to look at himself for.
I'd like to know what the discussion around Rishabh was, because in the press conference, I think Gautam Gambhir had said that the team takes precedence over your natural game. So maybe he was told, listen, value your wicket and hang in there, because one of my commentary colleagues says he looks like a boy has been made to stand in a corner in the classroom. So
You
this debate will always be there with free spirits. With free
know,
spirits, it'll always be there. Do you allow him to be a free spirit, or do you put him in a bottle? When he was a free spirit, everyone criticized him. When you put him in a bottle, this is what you're getting. But for all that I know, these 40 runs might well prove to be decisive. The one wicket that disappointed me, DK, because once again he was looking good on the stroke of lunch. He was charging a spinner, but he wasn't really playing a shot. He wasn't charging to play a shot. What do you make of that Shubman Gill dismissal?
Again, a bit of premeditation. The previous couple of balls, he had bowled it at normal length. So he thought because the last ball going round the wicket, he could counter that angle. If it was slightly full, he'll just get the bat on it. But because he was anxious, he stepped out a touch early, and Nathan Lyon was able to pull his length back. And when you pull your length back from that angle on a green pitch, ball doesn't tend to turn. It just goes with the arm. And because he had stepped out, he had committed into playing that defense because there was no other short option that was available. Again, it is anxiousness, wanting to get to lunch unscathed. And these always happen before breaks, lunch, tea, end of day's play, where you start thinking about wanting to go in and hence you want to do something different to what you've been doing. And that led to his dismissal.
It's always very difficult to pretend it's just another moment. What would have happened if Steve Smith hadn't dropped that sitter of Jadeja early? Well, these things will keep happening. The Jadeja Pant partnership, was it right? Did they go too slow? It's all part of hotspot. Did you also get the instruction? And we talked about it briefly that Pant and Jadeja batted in a way they were told to bat. I saw one or two escape shots. It's almost as if Pant was quickly saying, "Arey teacher, nahi hai, chalo quickly, let's do something." And he charged and hit Bo Webster for a six and quickly came back saying, "Oh, teacher's back in the room." Do you think that they were forced to play that way by on team discussions, or did the nature of the surface make them play the way they did? Because for a while it seemed the innings was going nowhere.
It was, isn't it? And also, you have to understand that when you're looking to fight it out, play out the situation, play out the conditions, you also need to be constantly looking to score runs. You can't allow a debutant like Bo Webster bowl at 1 run and over Harsha. That's always going to get into trouble because the other three bowlers are bowling so well on that day, they could easily come back and bundle you out in a spell. I just hope they didn't get into that rut where, in trying to just bat defensively and bat time, they've gotten themselves into a rut. And that's why I said at the start, we will only know how good or how bad India has batted depending on how Australia bat. Until both teams are batted on the same pitch, we're never going to exactly find out if the pitch has been as spicy as we made it out to be, or did India actually bat poorly with a bit of anxiousness. I don't want to use the word fear because it can, I feel it is a negative connotation, but yeah, it has been one. When I looked at the scorecard after 50 overs, they had just barely managed to get close to 100.
In fact,
The
in
one
that
thing,
entire second session, they only scored at 2 and over. Now the problem with that is it looks like you're preserving your wicket, but if you suddenly lose a wicket or two there, the innings has not progressed. And I'll give you an example. Look at Virat Kohli, 17 of 69 balls. You don't always see Virat Kohli batting like that. And so the partnership has gone from 17 to 57. That is, they've put on 40 runs, but it's taken 17, 18 overs to do that. And then suddenly, if you lose two wickets, because on the spicy deck, anything could happen. You lose Shubman Gill, you lose Virat Kohli, you've lost four wickets, but the score hasn't progressed. It's still 70 only. It's still only 70 for four. So that is the danger of playing the way they did. And if you look at this, what is the score when Bumrah came into bat? 148 for 8. You got 37 because he swung his bat. I mean, another day, first ball could have gone up. But what would you have liked them to have played more shots or just search for the ones, twos and be a little more proactive?
Harsha, it's a two-part answer, isn't it? You can easily say they could have played more shots, but right now, do they back their techniques enough to be playing those shots? Because in trying to do that in the first 8 innings of this tour, they have gotten out a lot of times. So that amount of baggage in their mind is not going to allow them bat freely, isn't it? Add to the fact that the fear that if you play a loose shot and get out, it's going to look way worse. And that's always the case with batters at any stage of your life. The fear of expectation versus the urge to do what you feel is right for you. If it is not at a very even level, then the fear always almost engulfs you and you end up playing a lot more passively than you should be.
Which leads us to what 185 is like. And I think DK is right. You know how good 185 is after both sides have batted on it. But the general view in our commentary box was, look, you get to 200. That could be a very good score on this pitch till such time as the pitch is behaving like this. Tomorrow's 27 degrees, and DK, under the grass, you can already see cracks on this surface. So we have no idea how it's going to play as it goes along. But don't let it take away from the way the Australian bowlers bowl. They use the conditions. And that Scott Boland, man, I think Scott Boland gets up and just starts bowling on a length before he brushes his teeth or has a cup of coffee. What I found interesting was when a bowler is sticking to that line length, should you go after him a little bit more? And the only one who went after him a little bit was Bumrah.
But tell me, Harsha, do you think batters can bat the way Bumrah can?
No,
With
they can't.
absolute gay abandon,
No,
the
they can't.
kind of shots that is slogging to a point. He is just
Yeah,
hoping that it hits his bat somewhere, and he hits. If it hits the center of the bat, then it goes for a boundary. I
yeah.
cannot imagine. As I speak, I'm thinking about what Sam Constas is doing, which is absolutely slogging at this point of time, where he's stepping out. He's playing one ball normally, the rest is either stepping out or backing away, predetermining it to a different level. The game plan is to try and put the bowler off, but it will look like it is positive if he keeps batting, but the moment he gets out, it will look stupid. That is the beauty. There's a fine line between being, as I said, sexy and stupid, and it is always the result. So we have to wait and see. But you can't be a batter and bat like Bumrah. Impossible. You have, like, that's what batters do. Like, for example, Rishabh Pant, if he wants to put pressure on the bowler, his getaway shot is step out and try and tonk it over the top. We have seen Shreyas Iyer. When he is under pressure, his
Yeah.
step out is backing away and look to go over point. Everybody has that one shot. But to play that shot, you need a lot of freedom in your mind. If it is engulfed with anxiousness, fear, or the doubt, then you're always going to second guess yourself and you'll never back yourself enough to play a big shot. Now, with Boland's case, you had to either back away and go over point or step out and flat bat him. These were the two options because he was bowling relentlessly at length, wide of the crease, makes it look like it's coming in, but the ball shapes away. And then after it hits the seam, it either goes out or comes back in. And that is very hard to play. And we have discussed this before as well. He is probably the toughest in terms of angle to play. He is gettable if the pitch has nothing in it, but otherwise, in these kind of conditions, it is his strength to hit that length and just allow the ball to do what it is wanting to do actually.
Sexy and silly. Today you said stupid actually. Sexy and silly sounds sound a lot better than sexy and stupid. So we'll stay with sexy and silly. But they bowled well. Australia, you've got to hand it to them. Conditions in their favor. They bowled good lines. Other than Pat Cummins, who likes to bang it in short. And I mean, this is just a very high quality bowling side. 4 for 31 in 20 overs. At one point, till Bumrah hit two boundaries of him, it was looking even lesser. Starc 3 for 49, Cummins 2 for 37, and that consolation wicket there for Nathan Lyon. Right, this day was interesting also from a third umpire's point of view. A third umpire, like a wicket keeper or like an umpire, if he's noticed too much, there's an issue. And today, Joel Wilson was called in not once but twice. One on a very, very difficult call, which was the first ball that Virat Kohli faced. I thought it was a fantastic catch by Steve Smith, caught it absolutely clean as a whistle. But between him catching it and pushing it up, there was, that's why I said right at the beginning, by a blade of grass, you got the impression that the ball might have touched the surface before it was lifted up. It was a tough call, it was a brave call. Joel Wilson ruled in favor of the batter because he could not be 100% certain that the catch was clean, and that was a good call. But I was very surprised with the call on Washington Sundar. And I'm not the only one. I think everybody was surprised with the call on Washington Sundar. DK, that sneakometer was trembling like a Chennai boy who goes to Delhi without a sweater. It was trembling like that. Now there was hardly any additional tremor when the ball passes the glove. Now in the Yashasvi Jaiswal case, the snicko failed, but the visual evidence was so powerful
Correct.
that you could overrule that and give him out. But in this case, in a jittery snicko, I think he was well within his right to go back to the on-field umpire and say there is a jitter, but I do not have conclusive evidence. I think that, to my mind, I'm not an umpire. That would have been the fair call.
I was watching it live, and as it unfolded, as you said, I'm trying to only compare it to the Jaiswal dismissal. And that I watched it live and it was similar. the deflection was but too obvious. But in this case, there was no deflection. And the tremors were so consistent, nothing said that it is hit the glove, and hence the tremor is a little more or a little less. So for me, I think Joel Wilson, because the umpire had given not out and there was no conclusive evidence to overturn it, should have gone back to the umpire and told him to hold on to the decision. I was very surprised. And looking by Washington Sundar's reaction as well, I was very surprised. And we also have to remember, Pat Cummins, being the bowler, didn't pick up anything from the front. And Alex Carey was confident, but not to the point where he was sure about it. There was a little bit of doubt. That's why they went up. And looking at the replays over and over again, there was nothing, at least in Akashdeep's dismissal, you could see that red mark on the bat, in the inside edge. There was nothing of that sort that was showing us, rather giving us the evidence that it had hit the glove. And I really think it was not the best of decisions from Joel Wilson.
Yeah, so there you are. In the time India had, actually, India did well to pick up a wicket. I think going ahead, somebody needs to tell Sam Constas that this game is about bat and ball, and that sometimes you can let yourself down by being a smart aleck. I think he's a very talented player, and I'd like to see him put bat to ball rather than put words to lips. So I think he'll get that as he goes along. So 9 for 1 once again, Khwaja, once again Bumrah. Actually, there was a thought in our commentary box whether India could have declared about 20 minutes earlier and actually got more time at Australia, and we showed in the time that there was left that Australia could lose one more wicket. So India 9 for 1. So that was a story of the day, but I thought in many ways the story of the day was what came before and what came all of yesterday. And I'm going to ask you for your opinion because you know the people involved in this case. I was very impressed by what Jasprit Bumrah said at the toss. He said, "We are not a selfish team. That people are that he's opted to rest in the game. It shows there is unity in our team." I'm a little wary about the word rested. I have absolutely no qualms if they said, "Look, Rohit said I'm struggling with my form and I'm sitting out," and I don't think there's any harm in saying that. But I thought Bumrah was statesmanlike at the toss. But do you think the conversations would have been led by Rohit? Would he have been led to say, "Don't play"? Because it's a very big decision for a captain to take.
Actually, the last couple of days, I think after a very, very long time, the Indian team is marred by speculations from the outside. It feels like a lot of the journalists know a lot of inside information. And it was never the case in all through Rahul Dravid's tenure and to a large part of Ravi Shastri's tenure as well. It has come after, I don't know, but I'm not able to exactly remember, but it's come after a very long time. And I refuse to believe that everything that has been said and written is absolutely true. I don't know, to be honest, but I know about Rohit Sharma. I think he realized he wasn't batting as well as he would have wanted. It's been a very tough series for him personally. He did everything he could. In fact, in the last innings in Melbourne, he actually gutsed it out and played as well as he could till he got out. And that probably would have set the alarm bells ringing in his head saying, maybe right now, no matter what I do, I'm just getting out. I'm not batting well. So then I'm not the right person to be opening this innings. Forget the captaincy part of it. My first job, apart from being a captain, is to deliver by scoring runs. And I am not doing that. So it's best that I sit out. And I think the conversation would have started from Rohit. I'm sure he would have had Ajit Agarkar and Gautam Gambhir in that conversation. And in defense to both of them, they would have both realized that it's coming from a place which is right. He is probably not batting at his best, and hence it is better to send KL Rahul, who's actually given good starts in the series so far, and bring Shubman Gill back in. In India, we are so fearful of using the word dropped. We heard Abhishek Nair, in fact, come out and say that Gill has not been dropped. He is rested. I'm sorry. Because of a team combination, he is not playing. But there is no harm in saying the player is dropped. I don't know why it's looked at as close to profanity. In fact, it is fine. It is okay to be dropped. I can't think of too many players who've gone through their whole career without being dropped. At some point, either at the start, midway, for whatever reason, somebody's been dropped. Okay, let's use the word left out. The fact is that Rohit Sharma and Gambhir have left Rohit Sharma out. As simple as that. I don't see I don't think you need to dig too deep. It's but too obvious that his form is not being great. So he decides that in the interest of the team, it's best that somebody else opens and somebody replaces him. And I just feel it's a straightforward call, one that needed to be taken, and they've taken it. As simple as that.
Rishabh Pant has said in the press conference at the end of the day that it was an emotional decision. We see him as a leader. There are some, but I cannot explain more than that. And it's okay. He doesn't really have to explain too much more because I'm still a firm believer, even though I've never inhabited that change room. I've been part of teams, not necessarily cricket teams, and I'm a firm believer that what goes on inside, everything need not necessarily find its way into the outside world because that can only create more discord. And there's been a lot of kite flying over the last couple of days. In fact, I think there might be a question on that theme that's been addressed to DK. So we'll look at that question before we finish today. Uh, Ritankar Banerjee, is there a quick fix to a fragmented dressing room? Just going by reports, have you been part of one and how does the team emerge back? There's two parts to that, Ritankar, and I'll only throw it to DK for the second part. Have you been part of one? All I will advise you, and you might think I don't know, I'm talking like an uncle maybe. All I will tell you is pick media outlets that you trust and only go by those media outlets because I came to Australia first in 1991 and there's one thing in common between 1991 and 2024 25 all those years which is there are stories of fragmented dressing rooms and that has not changed whether it is true or not. Every tour people have been saying that someone not getting along with somebody. So whether it is true or no, I think we should go with outlets that we trust, with people that we trust, and then just let it be because otherwise it becomes entertainment. This is not the movie industry, this is the cricket industry. That was my take on it. But take if you've been part of such an environment, if indeed it is so, how is it repaired?
Harsha, first thing, Harsha, when you have a group of 20 individuals traveling and add another 10 support staff, these are 30
23
individuals.
support staff.
23 support staff. So we're talking about 40 people. Not all 40 will keep getting along. So, and let's take, for example, even the most successful teams of the 80s, West Indies, or the early 2000s of Australia. We got to know later there were so many small little issues, underlying issues that happened even in those teams. So the result is not always based on that. There'll always be a difference of opinion. Not everybody will get along with everybody, but once they come onto the field, they will do whatever is required to do well in that match. As simple as that. And I'm sure Team India is doing that. Are there issues? Could there be issues? Sure. A team that has lost 5 of the last 6, 7 test matches will have certain issues. There is what do I say? There is nothing too taboo about that. A team that is winning and doing well, and a great example is always in IPL. You'll always hear the word family and happy situations with teams that are doing well. And teams that are not doing well, you'll always find some friction here and there. It is okay. But the problem is the way it is handled and how people are dealt with at that point of time in that situation. I think a lot of this will subside once India does well in this test match. And if India doesn't do well in this test match, there will be a lot more talks about it and how things are not great in the dressing room. I remember very well during Greg Chappell's era, there was a lot of talks on the outside. But I remember reading someone thinking it is not even close to what is happening. Some partly true, definitely. But once they all got on the field, they all played cricket for India and did whatever possible to win that match. And I've always seen that the best of players, the seniors, everybody, they just came together to win that game, no matter what the situation or what the issues were outside. That never changed. And I would like to think, and I know for a fact that this Indian team is going through some issues for sure because they have not played really well. But Gautam Gambhir at the helm, Rohit Sharma, the senior player, Ajit Agarkar, the chairman. These are all solid human beings. They'll find a way to bring and integrate this team together and do what is required to do well in the series. And post that, they'll have a review and figure out if things need to be changed in whatever way, personnel or the way they're handling things, etc., etc. But for the moment, I can just say that Team India's only vision will be to get past the next 4 days in a successful manner.
Could not agree more because these are fired up individuals with dreams. They are driven people. There's heavy competition in a country like India. So there will be some people who are insecure. There will be some people who are edgy. And it is absolutely normal. Put all of yourself in your workforces. If you all are working, if you're working in a team of 10, is everyone saying, wow, man, you're my best friend? So, uh, so these things do happen. DK mentioned Australia, that great Australian team. There were people who couldn't stand each other. All they said was, I may not like you, I will respect you. When I cross the line, we're all playing together for Australia. And I haven't seen anything to suggest anything to the contrary in this Indian team. So fragmented, it works very well. But this is the cricket industry, not the entertainment industry, where we can forget. We're going on. So I'm not a fan of this. And all I'll tell you is from the time I started, I've been hearing this every single tour. So it's just that now social media makes it even more prominent. I only hope, and this is my one wish that can spoil a dressing room. I only hope if from within the dressing room, if people are leaking stuff, that is a problem. And if that is a problem, then it needs to be resolved immediately by captain and coach. So that is my two penny take on it. This game is wide open, by the way. 185 is looking pretty good. If Bumrah can get off to a really good spell tomorrow, already Australia 9 for 1. Usman Khwaja out once again, and a batting order that started to look a little better, but on this spicy pitch, who knows? Fast forward, quick one from you, DK. What do you see happening tomorrow?
I would like India to try and bowl out Australia within 200. I think that's a very plausible target. But the only thing they'll require a little help is slightly overcast like today. The pitch will
27 degrees tomorrow.
27 degrees is good, not great, but India should find a way to strike and get 3 to 4 wickets before lunch. That will put the cat amongst the pigeons. A lot of the time, Pat Cummins has done well enough for India to just hold on to the tail, and that's what India need to do. Be aware that even if there's one partnership, they break it in these kind of pitches, you'll get two or three that soon follows. And then, as we all know, the pitch by then on days 2 and 3 will be much better to bat on. But let's just talk about what can happen is if we know what Steven Smith can do. When he gets on a run, he just finds a way to just bat long hours. He could be a real thorn in our flesh.
I will wait and see. My wish list for tomorrow from an Indian point of view is more support for Bumrah. At the moment, there is awe in the Australian camp about what Jasprit Bumrah can do. But if wickets are falling at both ends, then I think that will benefit India a great deal. If Australia gets a lead of 70-80, then I'm afraid it might be a little too difficult from there on. But we'll wait and see. As always, this game decides its own course. We can only speculate, but the game decides its own course. And DK and me will be back with you tomorrow evening on Cricbuzz Chatter. Cheers.